want to say. All this sickness caused by the weather, shifting weather here or there. No. No, that's straight up of the devil right there, I'll tell you. You know, I ain't gonna let it stop me. I've been dying to come to church. We didn't hear last Sunday, and as far as it feels like a month solid, I ain't been here. Boy, I'm glad to be here with y'all today. Everybody's happy to be in church today.
Amen.
I'm going to read you a little bit out of John chapter 15. Abigail with the water. Thank you, Abby. I'm going to read you just a few verses starting John 15 and 13. It says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he may lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what the Lord doeth, but I have called you friends, for all things I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you." Let's pray. I like that verse. I've read that verse 1,000 times. I come to a conclusion on it, and I started thinking on it and pondering on it. I believe the Lord gave it to me. I'm going to give it to you. It's not no new revelation, but it's a new way I looked at it. This is about as old as the hills, honestly. So I'll never come to you and say, "I found something brand new." No, this is older than the hills, but it's sound doctrine. But the verse says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he may lay down his life for his friends." Now, as Christians, we've all heard that, and we've all come to it, and we've had that Peter complex. "Lord, I'll go on to death with you." Said, and that's what we think. We think we lay down our lives, and we will give ourselves, and we will die for the cause. You know what the problem with the Christian world is? We have a martyr complex. We do. We have a martyr complex. That's the first. We are willing to die for the gospel. We are. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But we have that martyr complex. We're ready to die, and that's all we talk about. There's going to come a time where we're going to die for the cause. We're going to die for the word. We're going to die. We're going to die. We have a martyr complex. Jesus said, "You are my friends." Right? But right before that, he said, "Greater love hath no man than he lay down his life for his friends." Now, how did Jesus lay down his life? Well, he went to the cross. No, look deeper. Jesus laid down his life for his friends. It wasn't just the beating he took. It was not just the torment and the plucking of his beard, the crown of thorns, the nails through his wrists and feet. It was not the death on Calvary. That's not all he did. He laid down his life for his friends, those he loved. For God so loved the world. Jesus was in heaven. He sat at the right hand of power. He was one with God because he is part of the Godhead. He had the greatest place ever to just hang out for all eternity, and he laid all that down for those he loved. He gave up a throne of power. He gave up sitting at the right hand of God to come down here, born a baby, to live as we lived, because he laid down his life for us. I started exploring the idea, what does it mean to lay down your life for your friend? Look at Noah. Noah was a righteous man in his generation. He laid down his life, not saying he died for the cause. He laid down his life in such a way, he stopped whatever he was doing and spent the next, 120 years building a boat because God told him, "Build me a boat." No, I'm about to send a flood. I'm going to destroy the whole world, but I'm going to save some animals. I'm going to save your family. I need you to build a boat. And Noah said, all right. He started building a boat. He laid down his life. What did it say here? He said, ye are my friends if ye do whatsoever I command you. God said, I command you, build me a boat. And Noah laid everything else down. He wasn't worried about the tilling. He wasn't worried about the farming. He wasn't worried about the upkeep of his house. He wasn't worried about going to the neighbor's party. He laid everything down so he could build a boat for God, because God said, I need a boat. Noah laid down everything for God. Abraham, get thee out of thy country. Leave thy father's house and go into a land of which I will show you. Abraham come from a wealthy family. They had a lot. They had a lot. You can't prove that. Yeah, I can, because look, when they sent Jacob back, he went and found a wealthy man named Laban and married his daughters. This man had money. Said he come from money, and he gave it all up to wander in a desert, to wander into a land that he didn't even own, to live out of tents. He left mansions to live in tents, to follow after God's word, to do what God said. And what does the Bible say about Abraham? It says Abraham was a friend unto God. He did everything God commanded. Only thing that Abraham ever wanted was an heir, was a son, was someone to take on the family name. And even though that God promised him, said, nations will come from your loins, he gave him one son. And when he had that son, don't know how old he was, I estimate he was about between 16 and 20 at the 16 and 19 at the time. God said, I want you to take your son and sacrifice him to me. And what did he do? He gathered the firewood, he got a knife, he got fire, and he took his son up onto a mountain and said, God's going to supply a sacrifice. And he went up to do what God said. He laid down his thoughts, his loves, his desires, everything that he wanted, he laid it down for God. He laid down his life. It gets even more intense than that. Look at Moses. You want to talk about a man raised in luxury. He was raised in Pharaoh's house. He was a prince of Egypt. He had everything money could buy. He had the finest horses, the finest chariots. He had servants waiting on him 24/7. Said he had money, he had education. He had everything any of us could ever want. And he said, I would rather suffer with my people than be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He left the life of luxury to live amongst God's people. And even then, after some circumstances where he murdered a man, he fled Egypt, went into the desert, met a man named Jethro, married one of his daughters. Jethro was well off. Moses had a cushy life. He was a shepherd. He was in money again. He had a good life. And then God said, I'm going to send you back onto the place you fled. You're going to face persecution. You're going to face hatred. You're going to face death. And you're going to tell them to let my people go. And Moses gave up everything he had a second time so that he could go free unhappy people who were complaining the entire time, to free them and to wander 40 years. He left comfort twice to wander in the desert for 40 years. Man. He laid down everything. What does the Bible say about Moses? It said that God spoke to him face to face as a friend, because Moses was more than willing to lay down his life for God. He laid down everything he had for God. And he's not the only one. It said, you read your New Testament. It said, as he walked the coast of Caesar, I think it was Caesarea, where he found Peter and them. For some reason, the name of that river, that ocean sea, it always eludes me. But he's walking on down the coast. He sees a boat, got two fishermen in it, fishing with their daddy. This is their livelihood. This is all they know. They weren't educated. They didn't have a high-end education. They didn't have prospects. It was fish or die. That was the only thing they had in life. And Jesus took one look at them and said, follow me. and I will turn you to fishers of men. And these men turned away from their father, turned away from their teaching, turned away from their livelihood, left everything they had so they could follow after Jesus. And Jesus told them before, said, a fox has a hole, the bird has a nest, some man has not even a place to lay his head. They turned away their homes, their families, their livelihood, their job, their careers, everything they knew so they could follow after Jesus. They laid their lives down for God. You want a high-end spectrum? Saul of Tarsus. Oh, you talk about an education. This boy had the best money could buy. Of the Pharisees, he was the smartest. He knew more because he had every teacher that knew everything teach him everything about it. He had status in Jerusalem, but it wasn't just in Jerusalem. He held a Roman citizenship. This man was well off in Rome. This man was well off in Jerusalem. He was rich. He was looked at in high regards everywhere he went. And what happened to him? God met him on the road to Damascus, knocked him off his high horse, and told him, said, "You will follow me." Paul gave up his status and his well-being and his notoriety so that he could be what? Chased out of town, stoned, beaten, tortured, bit by serpents, shipwrecked, imprisoned multiple times. He gave all up, everything he had up so that he could go after God for what reward? It wasn't even on to death, even though he was willing, because it says he ran to the chopping block because, you know what, he said, I ran my race, boys. I'm done. I'm going home now. Said he was willing to go on to death, but he laid down his life first, gave up his hopes, his desires, gave up the things he wanted in order to follow after God because God was his friend. And he preached the love. Too often, though, the church we have this martyr complex. We get like Peter, Lord, I'm going to follow you out onto the cross. And then sometimes we get, God will call us on that. Oh, you will, will you? See, Peter had to learn the hard way. You had to be willing to live for him first before you'd be willing to die for him. What did Jesus tell them when they come and said, Lord, we want to follow you? He said a bunch of people came to him and said, Lord, we're going to follow you. And he said, let any man who come unto me deny himself and pick up his cross and follow. Deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow me. Part of laying your life down is not death. We look at it too much like that. Laying your life down is to live for him. I said, I heard an old quote once, I like it. It said, anybody can die. It takes real courage to live. Think about it. Honestly, it is going to sound a little weird because a lot of people say, well, it's this way. Which is more terrifying? They've got you on your knees. They got a gun to the back of your head. Deny Christ or you're going to die. No, I won't deny Christ. They pull the trigger. You're out of it in no time. Gone. You close your eyes here. You wake up in Jesus' arms. That's not very terrifying to me. Deny yourself and follow me. You're standing in the middle of Walmart. Somebody says, I need prayer. You don't understand how the devil's coming against me. And there's people walking by. They're watching me. Can I lay hands on them? No, people's watching. What's more terrifying of those two, really? So we've got in their heads social status. Social status. We're afraid to live the life in the open because we're worried about what people's going to think for us. We got to lay down our lives and live it out in the open. I let a bunch of people know my thoughts. I let a bunch of people know when they asked me, so they were doing a homework assignment, and said, what peoples, if you could have dinner with 6, what people would you want to have dinner with? My first response was, Jesus, Paul, Abraham, David. So why? I said, because I got a lot of questions and I need some answers. I'm starting to more boldly live my life. I mean, this is a new thing. They tell me at work all the time, you're not allowed to talk about Jesus on the desk, and then I have a good Christian friend come in, and we have a nice conversation. Had Melvin Vanover, said a good brother from Canevy, walk in, and we was just standing there, and he's like, what's going on? And this is when I was going to preach another message about just knowing Jesus isn't enough. And I started talking to him about the Bible, and he looked at me and said, well, I didn't know that part was in there where it said, he told Peter, said, when you be converted. And I had a whole conversation standing at the desk. I didn't care who could hear me. I said, yeah, it says it right there, because Peter knew who Jesus was. And I was giving the gospel right there to him, and we were fellowshipping. We were ministering one to another. And I didn't care, because that's how I want to live my life. I want to live my life for Jesus. I mean, what's the worst can happen? Am I going to fire me? God took me into that job. I'm pretty sure He'll take me into another one. It's not the prosperity. People don't want to live it unless they're getting something out of it. So I'm not going to follow God unless it's like Joel Osteen says, and I get me a helicopter, a mansion. No! I declare God because He's my friend. Well, what makes Him your friend? Because He gave up heaven to come down here and suffer. He gave up power and authority over all of heaven so He could live as a human for 33 years and be persecuted so He can die. Well, what makes Him your friend? Because He died so I wouldn't. Amen. He laid down His life for me. I can lay down my life for Him. Come on, Josh. But how many of us are actually laying down their lives for Him? Oh, yeah, there's plenty of us. I'll die for you, Lord. I know every one of us have that mentality. But I want to look at it from the other point of view. I want to look at it from the way, because Jesus' word, no better way of saying it, and I know it's quoting a cartoon here, but there ain't no better way than Jesus' word like an onion. You keep peeling at it, there's a bunch of layers to it. It's delicious, but it's bitter. I mean, it can get to you. That's what John said. John the Revelator said. He said, this word is sweet as honey, but bitter as gall. Because it's hard. It makes you look at yourself. It said, the greater love hath no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friend. You say, I have the greatest love of Jesus, but you don't have the life to live for Him. You don't want to lay yours down so that you can live for Him. You have a reputation to keep. You can't preach the gospel in Walmart. You don't want people looking at you funny, so you can't proclaim Jesus on the streets. Well, it don't sound like we laying down nothing for Him. I want to proclaim Him. Shout it from the rooftops, He saved me. He can save you too. Man. I can't quit reading that verse. Greater love hath no man than this. This is the words of Jesus, the absolute authority in all things. And he says it plain as day in nice big red letters in this Bible. There is no greater love. There is no greater romantic love. There is no greater friendship love. There is no greater commemorative love. There is no other kind of love that is greater. This is the greatest love of all. There is none greater. When Jesus said, greater love hath no man than this, there is no love in the universe, despite what the devil wants to tell you, that the love that you bear for your spouse, no. The love you bear for your children, no. Jesus said it. Greater love is there not than to lay down your life for your friends. And you are my friends. When we were enemies of God, when we rebelled against God, when we stood in the very way to block His word, He said, you are my friend, and I lay down my life for you. I laid down heaven and came to earth. I laid down power and glory to be born a human. I laid down worship to be beaten. I laid down the kingdom to be crucified. You are my friends when we were enemies. And what greater love have we for Jesus to lay down our life and live for Him? Man, that's right. And that's all I've got. Just something to ponder on and chew on for a while, I guess. If anybody got anything else they'd like to add to that, Joe, you got anything you want to add? So you can preach right up on it. What about you, Daryl? We ain't got nothing else. Altars are open. Find your place and pray.